Folks, my name is Rudy, and I told you going into 2022, we're not going to mess around. So, Rudy, thank you for being a quality source of entertainment. I try to be fun. I try to be fun in a world of negative and angry and combining Timmys into Optimus Prime. I try to have fun for the Magic community. Community is a scary world. I am selling my Magic cards to fund a new Goldfish Bowl for my mom's cousin's Goldfish of the Third Dynasty. Please add these to the world-famous Rudy Volt's #1 God book. Someday I want to see your entire inventory in an online system. Thanks, Nate. So we just completed a pretty substantial transaction here in Florida. We're going to go over it a little bit today. We're probably going to split it up because I'm going to spend a little bit more time discussing it, what we have in this collection. There's some pretty heavy-hitting things, so it's going to be a little bit of a slower, more in-depth conversation for people looking for more of a wham bam, thank you ma'am, and get your gift bag on the way out. This is not going to be one of those videos. This is a high-end vintage Magic collection. So we're going to start the video off with the power. So this collection did have an absolutely stunning beta time walk, and we'll take it out of the sleeve. I've already, as you can see, I've already just removed this gentleman. Most of these were all double sleeved. Obviously, for any auditing or anything, you always have to remove all the sleeves to make sure that you can view the card and make sure you can check everything very, very clear. So we have a really nice light plate over here. This is probably one of the nicer batch here, or this particular card. Unfortunately, you do have a little bit of a binder ding there, but you know what? Not too bad at all. The infamous binder ding. You can always see right that exact spot where a binder ring is, but still, beautiful looking card. No major complaints. I mean, when I grade a card like this, people always say, Rudy, I'm going to grade it. I really, I wouldn't recommend anyone grades anything for the next 6 to 12 months until all these grading companies get back online and their prices get back to reality. But I believe a card like this would probably grade around, in my opinion, probably around a 7. But very cool card. Definitely a very nice one. And then we got over here a beautiful Mox Ruby from Beta. This one is very well loved, very, very well loved. You have all kinds of wear on it, but no binder ding. Very happy about that. Absolutely gorgeous card. There's something about these old ones, man. I know I love Unlimited, but man, that Alpha Beta or the Collector's Edition, man, that bold colors with the black border, man, there is just something to be said about it. So an absolutely well-loved Beta power. We already inspected everything. There is no signs of inking or anything, but cards are definitely well liked. Can you imagine the stories and things these things could, oh my god, I can't imagine the stories that these cards and the games these things have played. So for our third major one of the collection, this one is stunning. We have a gorgeous Beta Underground C to add to the Rudy Volt here. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that eye appeal. Little off center, but man, just stunning, man. Even the little nicks and chips on it and everything. I mean, yeah, they're there. It's not perfect. It's not going to be a PSA 45 or, BGS 9.9 quad, but I don't care. Look at the card. Just something special about it, folks. You got to appreciate it. So we do have, these are the 3 heavy hits of the collection that obviously derived a pretty substantial amount of value, even at buy list prices, even in played condition, man. I mean, these 3 cards alone, I don't remember the exact amount that we quoted everything, but whatever it was on the day, we took the average of the 2 or 3 companies buy list. But man, it was, these suckers, I want to say like 4,000 or 5,000 a piece or something. They were a lot, or no, maybe 6. I can't remember. Anyways, so just to comment on the overall market conditions with these Beta cards, I do want to comment here. I still believe a lot of these older cards have significant opportunity. They're not very attractive to most people because of the amount of capital required, and also there's no quick tendies. There's no quick, easy flip money to be made in cards like this. This is more, I look at items like this as more of an item that you park money into, and you let kind of the clock burn, and you let the months turn into years, and you let things go by, and before you know it, years later, you're very surprised in the market movement. That's how I see cards like this, and I don't think the market, anything has changed. I still stand by, these are pieces that you just want to build positions in because, there's no way to predict if these are going to be 10, 20, 50, 100,000 a piece in the future. Or maybe they go down to 0. Maybe Magic, like everyone says, when the Timmys on the internet, they say, reserve list, secret lair, right? Maybe they'll be worth 0, right? Because I'm sure they all know exactly what they're talking about. They're very educated. So maybe that's going to happen, but, it's worth the risk. So let's move on here. Next, we have, unfortunately, they are signed. I know, you guys know I'm not a huge signed fan. So we have an actual playset of signed, good old Mark Poole and the old scribbly scribs. Not as bad as the old Douglas Schuler and some of these other ones, but actually that'd probably make a pretty good thumbnail, wouldn't it? That's kind of cool, isn't it? And that look kind of neat. So we have ourselves a nice playset of beta counterspells. Do not underestimate the value of beta counterspells and the desirability of these long term. No, these are not gradable quality cards. These are very well loved, and actually some of these have almost to the very heavy, where you can see the creasing from the shuffleware creasing, where the actual, you can feel the surface of the cardboard from the creasing of the shuffle, and people flicking them and doing that whole, where you put it down, you flick it down. So you can see a lot, this was very common with a lot of these cards. They always have the distressed cardboard on the surface there in the middle, and I think most of these have that. Or this one's a little bit nicer. And let's see here, still pretty well loved. This one, yeah, this one I think is this one. So 2 had the creasing in the middle. This one's not as bad. That one was the worst. But man, these are very well loved. You even have some surface issues here. This one could have even had water or moisture damage at some point in time. The texturing is a little messed up, if you know what I mean here. So if you look at this card and you really feel it, it feels kind of, I would almost say in the category of damage. It could almost be even in a category of being like rebacked, because it has the actual damage to the type of card. So if you compare it, for example, to a card like this, and you look at the mana symbols, and when you see any major differences to the actual font or text, which there isn't, so I don't think it is actually a rebacked card, but it's pretty rough. Like this one has a nice normal back, and this one I just think actually has actual water moisture damage. It's a damaged card essentially, because the amount of, I mean, just my goodness, the light doesn't even reflect evenly. You can see like the weird surfacing on that. It's kind of it's a little bit of a rough one, if you guys know what I mean there. So moving on there, from the counter spells, again, honestly, even damaged or anything in that condition, it's still worth a little bit of money and still very fun to have. Next, we're going to jump over to some actual alpha playsets of alpha lightning bolts here. So we got 4 very, very well loved alpha lightning bolts here. My goodness. Again, this was not a high-end investors collection. This was a true old school players collection. You can tell the difference because the cards back then didn't have sleeves and they were very well loved. A lot of surface wear on all 4 corners and everything. Lightning bolt this is actually a common. People always assume counterspell is a common, but I believe counterspell is actually an uncommon. I think in the future, in later sets, they made counterspell a common in some different, more modern sets. But I think for the most part, it's an uncommon. These lightning bolts, though, is kind of one of the most iconic common cards for the old ABU era, next to probably like the Land of War Elves, obviously next to Sinkhole and certain other key, Disenchant, Fireballs, and things like that. Lightning bolt was always deemed the number one drop instant speed 3 to any target. That was always one of the most iconic things. People ask me, Rudy, do you think a common lightning bolt in alpha, even these, do you think they can go to like $1,000 a card and crazy stuff like that? And I know it's goofy and kind of dumb sounding, but yeah, I do think it's actually realistic, and it is possible that there could be a point in the future where you could have very iconic cards like counterspells or lightning bolts kind of become $1,000 cards, even though they are not even rares, because they are the very original printings. They are very symbolic and very special. And as time marches forward and natural attrition and everything, a lot of those things are just it's very difficult to acquire. It's just very challenging. There's just not a lot left out in circulation. So let's move forward a little bit here. So we're looking at this Library of Alexandria. This was actually one of the nicer condition cards in this collection. Beautifully centered, which is kind of an issue on many libraries. A lot of these Loas are a little rough in the centering. Absolutely beautiful Arabian Nights card. This sucker is almost in the category of near mint. You got a couple chips and dings there, but on the side. But this is one of the actual nicer condition cards in the collection. Very, very cool. Again, library it's kind of funny because for the first time in history, libraries are actually deemed cheaper and kind of quote unquote, I'm going to use this very gently, less desirable than like a bazaar. Because you have to remember, for Magic's entire history since the 90s, bazaars have kind of been the crappy version. Library, Loas were always deemed the Power 10, or some people call it Time Vault Power 10, but it was always deemed the chase card. And in the last 5 years, Bazaar really took a turn. Of course, the comment section is going to be, yeah, Rudy, because you bought them all and manipulated the market like my stepsister. Yeah, well, she's a sweetheart on Saturday. But, that's the markets can change like that. And when you have market dynamics where new cards and graveyard interactions and discarding becomes more attractive and, cycling through your deck for the cards you need become more desirable than trying to maintain a perfect, Now, again, don't get me wrong. Library taps for mana. It doesn't come into play tapped. And you literally get to draw a free card if you can maintain 7 cards in your hand. So, yeah. I mean, don't underestimate the extreme power level of a card like this. But I do think libraries are still undervalued. I think there is tremendous opportunity. I think that people are going to have to be very patient. Again, most people that were flipping in short term into this stuff have already left the market. I don't think there's any quick, easy money to be made in this stuff. I want to make that very clear. So for people into these things, you should only be buying this stuff if you truly love it. You have to have a true passion for it. And then kind of nature will carry you from there. And there is no quick money in this. These things are not swinging. You're not going to, I'm not going to flip this like some first edition Pokemon graded PSA 11 Charizard, fat Pikachu thing. It's just not going to happen. These cards are not seeing substantial buyouts and price swings. And, the market's pretty calibrated and kind of pretty stable of knowing where the value is at this point in time. So, but for people who do have a passion, the opportunity is there. I'm telling you all. Next thing here on this particular collection, playset. Beta Psionic Blast. Again, another uncommon card similar to the Counterspell things that are very iconic. They're very special. They are, they're still relatively cheap. Now, again, I mean, it blows my mind that even a common uncommon can be at some of the prices it's at because they're so rare. Even common uncommons are rare. And Psionic Blast, again, it's a blue direct damage spell at instant speed. It doesn't matter if it damages yourself. Who cares? It's still a very iconic, rare thing. So next we're going to jump over. I put these back in the sleeves. I don't know why. I remember what my rationale was. But 2 Beta Earthquakes. Again, never been a huge fan of Earthquake. Obviously, the key component of that is if you're playing a flying deck. And, you can kind of wipe out your opponent's creatures if all your creatures fly and your opponents don't. It's kind of it's kind of a Wrath of God, but for your opponent. That was kind of the angle of the card. Never really a big fan of that because, again, I mean, red, unless you're playing a bunch of Dragon Whelps and Shivan Dragons, or if you're playing white with a bunch of angels and stuff, I mean, I was never a fan of that particular card. But anyways, last but not least, before we cut off the video today, on this first part here is the actual Beta Berserk. I guess I can take the sleeve back off of this particular card. Again, we have the infamous Dan Fraser Scribble. We have a Beta Berserk on here. Very beautiful condition. Nice. Actually, I would call this one actually near mint condition, even with little chips and dings there. This is near mint sign. This is a very nice card. That Berserk was one of the cards that's not reserve list and even was reprinted in conspiracy sets and more modern new Master Era. Berserk has been reprinted more than once, even from the Vault. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Secret Lair Berserk eventually. But at the end of the day, there is no substitute for the original. And yeah, I know people say, well, it proves the reserve list is useless and reserve list is a lie. And I don't want to get into that. I'm so tired of talking about the reserve list and people speculating all this stuff. I've been doing it for 7 years on YouTube talking about reserve lists, and it's just beating a dead topic. Who cares? But, I do believe this reserve list serves a fundamental importance of the world of this stuff. And I don't think anything's ever going to change in my lifetime. And yeah, cards like Berserk, I do feel are very special and very valuable, similar to Soul Rings and some of the other uncommons that are not reserve list. And I still think they're very attractive. I think the price points at usually a couple $100 is I think it's a great purchase. I mean, look at the cost of new modern Magic. You really think an old card for a couple $100 is deemed expensive? I mean, look how rare. Look what you're buying for the price. And that's why I continue to march forward. And like I said to everybody, 2022, I'm going to continue to expand a lot of inventory positions because I just feel there's a lot of opportunity. And I feel like people aren't giving this stuff the attention it deserves. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you guys the continuing deployment of capital and the continuing deployment of expanding positions in cards that are very special. So to wrap up this video today, again, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll do another part of this thing here in a couple days. But remember, you have an old collection you want to sell and you don't want to take chances of somebody taking your cards, returning a bunch of Pikachus or something goofy. AlphainvestmentsLLC@gmail.com. Send the old PP over. Don't be a giggity, which is pictures and prices. And of course, I'd love to put you on the channel and acquire your collection, put it into the Rudy Vault. As always, friendly reminder, everything you see in this video is not for sale. I always appreciate the contacts and people always want to buy certain cards. But again, I do not, it's been 6.5 years. I do not sell vintage cards, reserve list cards, but I appreciate the contacts. And as always, beautiful world out there, everybody. Don't surround yourself with negativity. Don't act like the world's ending. It's not. Make sure you look in the right direction, everybody. Have a great day.